Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I am the Sam, the Bean's doing his thing, and I am so excited to be back building with you again. We had a bit of a technical hiatus, but we are back, hopefully for good, and today we are building the mid-century modern home. One of the reasons I'm so excited about this build today is because it's just on the cusp of beginner friendly. With the roof and the platforms, it does tread a little bit over into the intermediate category, so it is marked as that, but this home not only is perfect to execute with the base game, there's a whole neighborhood of mid-century homes already in Oasis Springs, so if you're a newer player or if you only have the base game, this home is going to blend right in, it's going to be great, and it's incredibly customizable to the needs of your Sims family. Before we get started, I have a little bit of a vocabulary review to do with you guys. This is something that I've been trying to remember, but if I say modern, you probably think of something like this. And then if I say mid-century, it's likely that you think of something like this. However, contemporary would be a better word to describe this, and this one is actually modern, and here's why. Contemporary refers to what is currently in style. So currently, we're seeing a lot of these more boxy builds, lots of concrete and glass and all this stuff, and they are beautiful. The word modern in sort of the art, architecture, design spaces refers specifically to the era of the early to mid-1900s, and the mid-century modern is an architectural style that dominated the plains and mountains and literally everywhere in specifically the middle of the century. From about the late 40s after World War II, when the soldiers were coming home, a lot of these were being built all the way up through the late 60s, although mid-century builds are definitely still being built today. This is hands down one of the most popular architectural styles in the United States. So while modern and contemporary are very frequently used interchangeably, when it comes down to actually building and making sure you're getting your point across, modern will specifically refer to an architectural style, art, design, or furniture type that was created and popularized in contemporary at the time in the early to mid 1900s, more specifically in the 50s and 60s. And then contemporary refers to something that is up to date, what is in the now, currently in vogue. So yes, these terms are used interchangeably very heavily. I will probably still mix them up, but I'm trying to do better, and if you're watching this series, it's because you are also a nerd and you care about little things like this. So now we all know. With that being said, let's talk about the mid-century modern. As always, there are multiple subtypes of the mid-century modern style. Specifically, you're going to have contemporary, which refers to the contemporary style at the time, organic, and international or Bauhaus, which I did not Google, so I might not be saying that right. I'm mostly going to be drawing today from the contemporary and organic, as they were much more similar. Both of them relied heavily on a lot of very classic elements, such as floor-to-ceiling windows, lots of glass, heavy influence on not taking away from the landscaping around them, using neutral tones, natural materials found locally, and promoting sort of indoor-outdoor family living. Whenever I read about a home style wanting to blend into a landscape, I always picture a hobbit hole, but all they really mean is that these homes tend to keep a fairly low profile. Again, using local materials, the landscaping tends to draw specifically from the world around it, and the house isn't trying to stand out specifically. If you want an example of a house built to stand out, check out the Gothic Revival Victorian that we just built. That one is made to stand out. Mid-century modern, complete opposite. Very decidedly unornamented, extremely simple, heavy reliance on geometric shapes, although the organic may have some curves, but for the most part, lots of straight lines, right angles, just everything you wouldn't find in a Victorian. One of the classic shapes of the mid-century build is of course the asymmetrical gable roof, which is the roof type we'll be doing today. However, as you're seeing in all these pictures, there are a ton of different options, and if you want to take a closer look, all of this stuff is linked in the Pinterest board in the video description. This tends to be a one-story build, although international and more contemporary recent constructions can be more than one story, but the levels of the floor may change, so we are using some platforms today. We're building a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, just lovely little family home here in the desert. We're actually going to start by taking our flat square tool and starting in 5 and over 1 on this side. We're going to drag it this way until it's only 2 out, and then this way until it is 5 out. And this is the overall footprint for our house and the surrounding decks. Starting right here, we can draw the main bedroom. I'm going to go up 4, and then to the left 5, and add a little ensuite there. This will turn into a hall. Across from the main bedroom, we will have 2 4x4 bedrooms, and then 1 2x4 bathroom. I'm going to extend a wall here 2 over, and go around the edge here, all the way as if we were going to close it off. but we're not going to quite close it off. We're actually going to come across here, and you might have to add a ceiling. That should place automatically. Alright, and that is our basic shape. A little bit of a funky technique. It's going to look pretty sharp. Overall, these are quite simple builds. If you wanted to make it larger, you could pretty much just expand these rooms. Make the bedrooms bigger, the bathroom bigger, maybe add another one. I'm choosing to go for smaller bedrooms here to keep the home a more manageable size. But as always, it's The Sims 4, you can do what you want. Next up, we're going to take some half walls and actually section out some areas of the home to add platforms. It was common in mid-century homes to have sort of split level living. While the majority of the home could be considered a one-story, you would have some areas of the build that were higher and some that were lower than others. So we're going to do a small amount of that here. I'm going to be using the 1.5 half wall here, and I'm going to start by blocking out my entry and my living area. These two spaces I want to stay sort of on the ground level, and the rest of the areas I'm going to raise up one. Now, if I use the wall tool and remove wall, I have a little step up right here, and I can have a little step down into the living space on this side. This will be our kitchen and dining, and the last bit of wall we have to add is our chimney. I'm going to put a fireplace here and the door to the outside over here. For now, I'm going to draw a double level chimney, but we will adjust the height after we add our roof. I've decided to actually expand the master bedroom to be a little bit larger, so now it's just one tile in from sort of our around the house walkway. But let's talk about the roof. I'm going to do the sort of classic asymmetrical gable roof, which is achieved by using two half gables. The first one I'm going to place on this section of the build and pitch it down fairly low. I can use shift to pull in this eave, and then if I copy and rotate this piece of roof, it's a little bit big, but if I hold Alt, it should maintain the height as we pull it across and match up pretty well. Now I do want this to line up on the back of the build, so I'm going to hold Shift and extend this one eave so that these line up. Not only does this provide an unbroken roof line right here, but it also provides a little bit of covered area on the back deck. We're going to do a similar thing on the front here. I'm actually going to copy this same roof piece and size it down to cover this bit of the roof, and then hold Shift and extend this eave until it matches up over here. Now at some point my pitch did get a little bit messed up. That's okay. I can just hold Alt and adjust it until it lines up again. And once again, I want these eaves to line up, so I will just hold Shift and extend this. I do want to make sure that this walkway is covered, so again, I'm going to hold Shift and extend these eaves a touch in this direction. And there's that beautiful asymmetrical gable. This is also super easy to add skylights to, and of course you know that I now feel compelled to. So I'm going to use this roof piece and just slide it over about this far, and then hold Shift to tuck that eave in. Copy the same roof piece and place it on this side. After fixing my eaves, I'll place the same roof piece one last time, bring all of my eaves in, and add a lovely brown glass texture here. I do want this area to be covered, so I'm going to copy this roof piece and shrink it down to only be one tile wide, and then pull it across, and to keep this clipping from happening, drop this pitch ever so slightly by holding Alt and just bringing it down a smidge. And now we have a skylight. Except for this awkward little seam right here. Overall, it looks pretty cohesive as a roof piece, but it's actually a whole two pieces over here and four on this side. Isn't that nifty? If you want more information on building mid-century roofs, I did a whole video specifically about roofing a mid-century build, so you can check out that video in the card up here. As far as what you want to decorate the outside of your build with, you could go with siding, stucco, brick, stone, anything that's going to look like it sort of came from the world around it. You also want to make sure that your builds more or less blend into the area around them, so even though we definitely want some big windows, which is a key aspect of the mid-century style, we'll keep in mind that it is a desert area and not use as many windows as we may use in a more temperate climate. Because we have this whole section of the build that's clearly very separate from this section of the build, we could actually very easily do a sort of two-tone, I almost said finish, but I guess finish on the outside. Again, keeping in mind that this is in the desert, I'm opting for lighter colors, but I'm mixing brick with siding and using this same brick for the chimney back here. Another fun thing about this style is you can actually select in here both mid-century and modern, and that will give you a lot of excellent options for siding, doors, windows, furniture. You don't have to stick with this stuff, and there's a ton of other options from other packs as well. But if you're trying to decorate the inside, which I'm not very good at, so if this was me, I would be using these tags. As far as windows go, you're mostly looking for very tall sort of floor to ceiling windows, such as Let There Be Light and Let There Be More Light. I'm going to use the modern wood door, and I'm actually going to go for a bit of a gray and blue color scheme because the Let There Be Light window actually has a gray and blue swatch that sort of acts like a frosted glass. And since I have a bathroom right here, that seems like a really good option for this window. And then I can just use the plain old clear gray swatches elsewhere. Same goes for this window, just the bigger version. I do wish that we had some windows that we could sort of put up here. The best that we sort of have would be to take the light box window and then just basically add some in. Whether or not you like that look is totally up to you. It could definitely fit with the style though. I am going for curb appeal here with all of these large windows, but again, because it is the desert, oh rats. You can see my platform, which is kind of a bummer. I forgot that that would happen. Well, you can scoot your windows up a touch. That should take care of that. Anyway, going for curb appeal here with these large windows, but because we're in the desert, I may use slightly smaller windows or no windows at all along the sides of the build. Again, the mid-century home was one of those house styles that was really focused on not overpowering the natural landscape and sort of fitting into the world that it was built in. So if you're going for a more temperate area, by all means, walls of windows. Absolutely gorgeous. I will for sure add a couple more of these tall windows on either side of the fireplace and grab a nice sliding door here for access to the outdoors. Now in these bedrooms we have a couple of options. We could add windows or we could add doors. I know it looks like the door is floating, but this will still work for your Sims just fine unless they changed that in the update. Who knows? I think I'll go the window route, but I will add a light box window here for the bathroom. Your roofing is going to greatly reflect the world around you. You could use shingles, concrete, metal, glass. If you have other packs, the solar panels would probably be a really fun option. I'm just going to be sticking with some classic shingles. And I can use my square roof trim because this is a modern enough build that it can carry it off. So that always makes me happy. I do want to make sure I add a door to this sort of hallway area here. And we can always add a little platform right outside the door to act as a step. For whatever reason, this may repaint your wall, but that's a quick fix. If you don't like the default platform trim, you can find other platform trims down here and just pick something fairly simple. I like this one because it's quite slim and it doesn't make weird bumps. Let's talk about some flooring. And it's been requested that I actually put lights in the build, which whatever. So let's see if we can actually see. You could definitely go for some carpet in builds like this, probably mostly in the bedrooms, although hardwood is a great option for the rest of the floor. And you could either continue that or go with some tile or linoleum in the kitchen and bathrooms. Walls, really you can do whatever you want. You can keep them quite simple and go for a nice sort of beige. You could really embrace the 60s vibes, add a little more color, or just stick with modern and go white. Speaking of modern, I'm going to go with this more modern looking fireplace. It matches my wall, so that's just perfect. And you can add a wall-mounted TV right above that. What a great living room. Interior doors don't have to be anything special. Probably just be using some beige doors myself. Outside, again, you could go for tiles, bricks, stone, whatever's going to make the most sense for your area. And of course, you can change out the foundation here. The kitchen is a good opportunity to use these Blandco contemporary counters. And again, you can use the little gear icon to get your custom counter pieces, which can be super helpful for all sorts of stuff, really. You could do something as simple as this, obviously, with a stove and sink, or you could add a peninsula here. If I were to add a peninsula, I would just delete this straight up, and then use this piece coming out right from the wall, with of course an end piece. And then I would delete that space and use it for a stove, which is probably not the most practical place to put one, but it alleviates the pressure to have like a proper joining of the counter to the island piece. So that's what I would do. What a delightfully beige kitchen. I feel like I need beige tiles instead. There we go. Again, using these little tags to help you find furniture is great, and you can fit a whole 3-tile dining table in here, which is pretty great. Speaking of that, let's talk about how you could actually expand this. Not only could you simply expand the rooms, but you could extend this hallway to add more bedrooms, even have it loop around to the side. If you check out the Pinterest board with all my reference images and things, there's actually a floor plan for a whole house that's like a whole U shape. Like, it's massive. It's really cool. I thought about building it and then thought, no, let's keep this video a little bit shorter and hit the basics as opposed to just something really impressive. So these homes really can get quite large. Some of them are 2 stories, although that's not as common with the more original mid-century builds. That's more of the more recent constructions, the contemporary mid-century, if you will, as opposed to mid-century contemporary, which is the style this one is. Anyway, I told you those words are confusing. But no, this is an excellent little family home, very easy to get started in. The things that make it tricky are the roof and using some of these platforms, which of course you don't necessarily have to do. The video I linked earlier in this video shows some really easy ways to roof a mid-century. But aside from those 2 things, this is an extremely beginner-friendly build, very easy to put together and expand. Not one of my personal favorite architectural styles, but I can definitely see the appeal and the class similar to the ranch, which was built at the same time. What do you know? Bathrooms aren't going to be anything too spectacular, however these were definitely very family-focused builds. So some sort of bathtub or shower or combination thereof would be really great to have in sort of the family bathroom. And if we actually scooch this door over, we could even do a double vanity, not unlike what we did in the Prairie Craftsman, which the Prairie Craftsman was actually a huge influence on this whole style. Also, if you have move objects on, you can do this whole thing where you place a couple of these mirrors and sort of stack them together, then very carefully scoot your counters out. And that's going to give you that classic installed massive mirror look, which, you know, it's fun. So it'd be a good little family bathroom, and of course the master bathroom. Fancier or not, sometimes it's just nice to have your own space. Really, all things considered, these homes aren't that old. We've built houses on this channel this month that are from back in like the 1600s. The 1960s weren't all that long ago. If you feel like your roof needs some support, you can always throw down a couple of columns. Just keeping them fairly streamlined is important, and you can place them and raise them so that they sort of blend up into the roof, which is really nice. Which in a way almost aids in that whole like, look at me, I'm slanting factor. This would be a great place to add a pool. And landscaping isn't going to be that intense. Again, family focused builds, you'll probably have a closed in backyard. Personally, when it comes to privacy fences, I really like this one from Snowy Escape, and well, the shorter version, this one from the Eco Lifestyle Pack. And if it comes down to the base game, you could of course go for something like this, or place one of these slightly taller half walls, and give it a little bit of pizzazz with some little windows. Something like that. This would then become an excellent sort of private barbecue area, and you still have lots of backyard space for a vegetable garden or whatever else you may want. When it comes down to curb appeal, we're going to be sticking with fairly simplistic landscaping, a couple of local trees for some privacy, locally sourced rocks for texture, again you can size up and down with the bracket keys, and a few native plants is about all you really need for some successful landscaping. Of course you could go much more in depth and add a flower bed if that suits your Sim's personality, but simplicity, reflecting the landscape around you, and staying focused on the family that lives here are really what you want to go for with any part of decorating. I'm going to use this same stone to extend a path all the way to the sidewalk, and of course add some terrain paint under my rocks, plants, path, foundation, anything. Let's do a little bit of a recap. From the outside, the mid-century modern home tends to have a very low profile. We talked about this in the Prairie Craftsman, which happens to be where a lot of the inspiration for the mid-century modern came from. Architects like Frank Lloyd Wright had a heavy influence on the architecture at this time and worked a lot in both the Prairie style as well as the mid-century. The asymmetrical gable is one of the most classic roof styles of the mid-century modern home. However, there are a lot of other options, and as always, I recommend working from a couple of reference images when you're building, especially if you're still learning the ins and outs of the style. You can of course find all of the reference images and articles I used for this video in the link below. When it comes to the interior, you're going to notice a fairly open floor plan when it comes to the living, kitchen, and dining area. Indoor-outdoor feel was very important to the residents of the original mid-century homes. So having lots of large windows, being able to see outside from wherever you were, those are very important aspects. This one has slightly fewer windows because it is in the desert and, you know, energy conservation, heat, all that stuff. But this could be anywhere from like a mid-windowed build to a very heavily windowed build. Again, use your world for some inspiration and use a reference image to sort of get an idea of your shape, as it were. I am very tired. With these being family-centered homes, you're going to find typically a handful of bedrooms. These homes can get quite large, and of course, pretty much anything can be made into a one-bedroom if you try hard enough. Colors tend to be more neutral and earthy, but you can really throw down anything you want, anything that sort of suits your style and the Sims that live there. I just realized I forgot to actually technically finish off the chimney, so how we're going to do that is just replace these walls with some tall half walls to leave it open. Then if you want some smoke effect, you can throw down one of these guys. Work very carefully. You can place it right in there and then smoke will come out the top and it'll look cool. I think that's all I have for you guys today. I was really excited to make this video, especially since the Mid-Century Modern is such an easy build to pull off in the base game, as well as there are already neighborhoods in the base game that have this home. So if you are joining us for the first time playing The Sims 4, since it is now free, super cool, well, base game, but obviously this could be a really great home to start exercising your building muscles with. Some of the techniques are a little bit more advanced. If you want to see some more beginner friendly builds, I recommend looking at this playlist. All of the build difficulties are right on the thumbnail, so that's super easy for you to find. My personal recommendation, if you're going to build in Oasis Springs and you're looking for something a little bit easier, you should totally check out the Adobe Revival. That one was super fun. And if you want to move into Willow Creek, the shotgun will blend right in. This other card is a playlist of other tutorials I have. They are much more topical, such as how to add a skylight, how to get the basics of landscaping. So if you are newer, I highly recommend checking out those tutorials as well. They are very short, most of them are 5 minutes or less. And with all that being said, I had a lot of fun building with you guys today. I need to head to bed, but I am very much looking forward to building with you again tomorrow. Bye!